That's the name they gave me.
Does your son tend to gravitate towards younger kids or adults than his same age peers? Here's maybe the reason why. Because if you tend to have one-sided conversations where you talk at people about your interests, rattle off facts, younger kids are going to tolerate you because they don't really know better, because their social expectations are not as developed as somebody your age, and then adults are just going to sit there and listen to you and be polite, which is why a lot of kids with social learning challenges gravitate towards younger kids and to adults. It's because the younger kids will tolerate them, having one-sided conversations, and adults will tolerate them, also having one-sided conversations. So that being said, I posted something that a strategy I teach, or I use in my How to Hang Out group, which is we put being an information informer on one end of the spectrum and a social relator on the other end. An information informer, somebody being who talks at people, rattles off facts, information, those kind of things. And at the other end, a social relator is somebody who relates to others by showing an interest in them, talking about things that other people like talking about, even if they don't like it, okay? Because if we're gonna have friends, we have to be able to engage others and talk about things that maybe we're not interested in for the sake of the relationship. All right, and that's a really hard concept for a lot of kids with ADHD, because number one, if you are very concrete in your thought process, your thought is, why should I talk about that? I'm not interested in it, And if you lack perspective taking skills, your thought process is going to be, well, this is interesting to me, so I'm going to talk about it, because you're not thinking about the other kid's thoughts. So what I ask kids to do is I ask them to mark off where they fall on this continuum from being an information informer to a social relator. And most of the time I find they are pretty accurate about it, or very accurate about it. And why I do that is because, one, I want to see their level of self-awareness, but also to introduce the concept that if you are going to make and retain friends, you have to show an interest in others. You have to be able to talk about things other people like talking about, and you have to sometimes do what we call a social fake, which is talk about things you're not interested in for the sake of showing others that you want to be friends, and that's part of learning how to tolerate boredom also. The last thing I'm going to tell you about this, and please keep this in mind, that if your son tends to talk at you and have one-sided conversations and you don't call him on it, or you don't address it because you're worried about hurting his feelings, you're doing him a disservice. You're not teaching him that that's not okay in the context of other relationships. So please don't feel bad about calling him on it. Don't feel bad about sharing your thought process and say, hey, you know what, I'm feeling kind of bored by this conversation right now because you're just talking about facts to me and we're not really having a back and forth conversation. This is going to help teach him social accountability, and by you doing that, it's teaching him how to understand others' thought process, okay? Hope this is helpful. Feel free to leave any questions or comments below, and I will speak to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.